So what we can do now is, in the game, like the previous one, let's call it game 1, game 1. This. Now you remember before, we made the viewport rectangle public. So now that the ball class can refer to the viewport rectangle, we can say if position is greater or equal than viewport game1 dot viewport rectangle dot x, that's the top of the screen. Wait, I want to, if it's less than, because up is down and weird is weird. So if the position dot x is less than the top of the screen, let's say plus 10, so that the top of the ball touches the top of the screen and it will bounce off. So if it's 10 away from the left of the screen, we want that x bounce to equal true. Yeah, that's what we want. Let's move that up a line. And the reverse is true if it's greater than 10 from the right side of the screen. I want it to be false. I've forgotten my semicolons, just to close those out. And let's do the same for the vertical. Position Y, viewport rectangle Y, plus 10. Then we want Y bounce to be, which one's up and which one's down? Y bounce is true. And if it's height, this one should be width because I'm doing it all wrong, minus 10. So 10 from the bottom of the screen, Y bounce will equal false. For now, let's go speed equals 3.0f. Change these to speed because changing them all individually every time will just get tiresome. Speed, right. Y bounce. Assigned but never used. It's used right there. Why is it not used? Let's see how it goes. Bounce. Oh dear, that's wrong. That's very wrong. Ah, if that's less than. No. Greater than or less than, yes. So if it's less than the top of the screen or greater than the bottom of the screen. Let's try that now. Bounce, bounce, bounce. All four, bounce, bounce. Yay! Okay. Now we're finally getting somewhere. Let's go into game1.cs and add some paddles. Now we could do like last time, start with a game object and work our way forwards, but let's use what we've learned and add a class paddle. Actually, we forgot one little thing, that is to take the using statements from the top and add them to our new classes so that everything we can use gets referenced properly. Otherwise, at some point, it's going to become a problem and I'm going to cry because I didn't do that. So ball colon game object, paddle colon game object. Very good. So we come into game 1 and say we want a paddle, and we'll call it paddle 0 and paddle 1. Come into load content, change these to paddles, paddle 0 is a new paddle. I'm going to say paddle too much, it's going to stop having any sort of meaning, but oh well. We want to keep the height halfway up the screen. Let's say viewport rectangle dot x plus 20. So it's 20 away from the left side of the screen. Maybe 30, just to, yeah. These still need to be paddle 0 and paddle 0. We're going to keep the sprite file as white because we're just going to build a different shape block using them. Dunk dunk. Dunk 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 dunk. Ooh, da, 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 da. Paddle 1, paddle 1, paddle 1. Ah, young paddle 1. You're wise in the ways of the Force. Right. Paddle 0 dot draw. This is the game that we want to reference. We want it to be 20 wide. Let's go with 80 tall. And since the white is just white, doesn't matter whereabouts on the sprite sheet we call it. And we say 1. Excellent. Now if we look at that, we should have a paddle on the left and a paddle on the right. We have a paddle on the left, but I forgot to move the one. So we want this to be viewport rectangle dot width minus 30. And that should shift it to the right side of the screen. Do those paddles look a little short? Maybe. Maybe. Let's just make them to around 100. Now we have no updates for them yet, but we're going to have updates very shortly, so let's paddle 0 dot update. But I don't know what that is, it doesn't exist. And we'll put this in automatically because we're going to reference that as well. Reference this and that. No. If we come into here, we don't need any special things like the booleans or class attributes. So let's just go straight into public void update. Game 1, game 1. Now what else we'll need to do is decide what controls what. So let's go with int player. It's an integer, the player number. For now let's say this is going to be player 0. Whoops. And this is going to be player 1. I should stop saying this right next to the word this, because that's not helpful. So back in the paddle class, now we can add some controls and say if player equals 0, so these will be the controls for player 1, and we'll say if, actually yes, I referenced game 1 but I have not yet made the controls public, so let's do that before I get myself in a state and not know why anything's not working. If keyboard state game1.keyboard state rather is key down keys dot w. Velocity dot y equals, and w is up, so we want that to be negative 3.0 f, and in turn if game1.keyboard state keys s, then velocity equals positive 3. And let's start by saying maybe do that outside. Velocity equals vector2 dot 0, which is basically the same as putting new vector2 0 0. That's all vector2 dot 0 is. And underneath this we want to add position plus equals velocity. Let's add controls for player 2, shall we? If player equals 1, the wonderful thing about computers is 1 is actually 0, everything's defaulted just a little bit back, so player 1 is position 0, player 2 is position 1. Isn't that wonderful? Let's go keys up, keys down, so you can share a keyboard, because that's nice and friendly, isn't it? Let's see now. W and S, up and down, up and down, up and down, W and S, W and S, W, S, W, S, up, down. So everything's working, except you can't hit the ball, and the ball hits the back wall where you should score. So we're not quite there yet, but we're getting closer. It looks like a game. Wouldn't it be great if the ball did actually rebound off the bats? That would make it quite fun. So if we come into the game objects, we need to add a new class attribute. And let's add it into a whole new region called collision. Now there's so many types of collision detection, most of them I don't understand because they get stupidly complicated. But for now, let's just go with hitbox equals, oh, I'm doing this wrong, sorry, rectangle equals hitbox. I've done that wrong as well. Rectangle hitbox equals new rectangle. There, much better. Now we need to determine where these hitboxes are. In ball, in the update, after the position and velocity or before, I wonder. Let's do it after. It seems I'm going to have to actually fudge this a little bit. I'm going to work out how to do that another time. But for the moment, we'll say the hitbox is equal to a new rectangle at position.x, position.y. The width we have is 20. So we want it to be position x minus 10 and position y minus 10. Because the central point at the moment is in the center, and with the offset of the rendering, the hitbox would be in a different place. So what I'll need to do is find a way to make the center and the positioning and everything else be somewhere else rather than the rendering. It's my own stupid fault, but then again, I'm an idiot coding, so what can you do? The height is 20 and the width is 20. That's the hitbox. These need to be int, and hitbox needs to be public. That should clear up all the mess that it's coming up with. And in paddle, we want, did we say we're doing it after? Okay. Hitbox equals new rectangle int position dot x minus 10 because it's 20 wide, and int position dot y minus 50 because it's 100 tall. And the width is 20, the height is 100. I have a feeling they're not in the right place, but we'll soon see. So then we come into game 1, and this should be quite simple. Go to the update, and under the ball, say if ball dot hitbox dot intersects or crosses over bracket paddle 0 dot hitbox. And don't forget the vertical lines, or ball dot hitbox dot intersects paddle 1 will paddle below 1 dot hitbox. Then ball dot x bounce. Is that public? I don't think it is it? No. Needs to be public. Needs to be public. Ball dot x bounce equals the opposite of ball dot x bounce. In other words, the direction should change. So if the ball hitbox crosses over the paddle's hitbox or paddle 1's hitbox, its direction in the x direction horizontally will switch. Let's see if that worked. Ooh, it hit there. And donk, it hit there. You can get caught between the paddle and the wall. That's quite interesting. I'm going to keep the ball forever now. Mine. Mine. Can't have it. Mine. I win. I win. So I'm going to leave it there for today. I think it'll take a little bit longer to work out how to add scoring, because that involves how to draw text onto the screen and things like that. And I think this episode has gone on too long as it is, and it's already massively confusing, so that'll give people a time to watch it and take it in, try and get some sort of sense out of it. Next time when we come back, we'll try and finish that out to a fully playable game of digital tennis. Tatty bye.